Who's up, who's down, who's starting August with a better footing for the grueling campaign ahead, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? We'll find out on this edition of Politicking. Welcome to Politicking. I'm Larry King. Hillary Clinton is presently enjoying a post-convention bounce in national polls, while Donald Trump is once again mired in controversy over his tweets and his rhetoric, this time with a Gold Star family whose Muslim army captain's son was killed in Iraq. Let's dive deeper into the numbers and analysis of the polls with Harry Eden. Harry is a senior political writer and analyst for 538. That firm has been enormously successful in telling us how things are going to come out. He joins me from New York. What's the assessment right now of this campaign, Harry?
Well, before the conventions, we had Hillary Clinton ahead, and now it seems after both conventions, Hillary Clinton is still ahead. Now, obviously, things can change, but historically speaking, if you're ahead before the conventions and ahead after the conventions, you go on to win in November.
There have been times, though, where that didn't work out. Wasn't Dukakis ahead before and after?
Well, Dukakis was certainly ahead before the conventions in 1988, but then Bush ran into a slight lead after both conventions took place. But I was thinking more along the lines of, say, 1948, when Harry Truman was trailing both before the conventions and after the conventions, and then pulled off that shocking victory in November. But again, we're dealing with a very small sample size, so I really would wait to see how large is Clinton's lead, say, at the end of August. If she has a 5 or 6 point lead at the end of August, then she's probably going to win.
Do you know what effect will the Bernie Sanders people go out and vote for her?
I think that is one of the big questions. If you look back before either of the conventions took place, you saw about a third of the Bernie Sanders supporters said they weren't going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Now, some of them said they weren't going to vote for Donald Trump either. They were going to vote for a third-party candidate. But I think the big question is whether or not she's able to get a large percentage of that third behind her. If she does, then she is going to win in the fall, no doubt. If she doesn't, it could be a very close race.
Apparently, everything that's happened to Trump, things he misstates, it hasn't hurt him at all in the Republican primaries. But how bad will his handling of this American Muslim hero affect him?
I think it could have a big effect, in terms of campaign effects, so that, usually most things don't have an effect. But this type of thing could, in fact, have, say, a point or two. If you look back to the Judge Curiel situation in early June, you did see his poll number slide a little bit. It wouldn't be shocking to me if we have this sustained Khan family situation continuing through the month of August. It could have a detrimental effect to Trump, as the Judge Curiel thing did. So I'd be very interested to see if it can stay in the news. If it does, it could lead to Trump's numbers falling even more than they have post the Democratic National Convention.
He has had no good response to this, has he?
Not really. I mean, he's attacked the family, which isn't a good response as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes it's better just to keep your mouth shut. But Trump can't seem to help himself. So he makes these statements and then exacerbates it and makes the news cycle go another one with this story in it. If I were giving advice to him, I'd say, you know what? You don't have to say anything. Just allow the news cycle to play itself out. But it just doesn't seem that he's able to do that.
Isn't August generally a down month? Everybody on vacation this summer. People start really repping up in September.
I'd say so. I'd say that I really would want to wait for Labor Day to get a good idea of what's going on. We're going to have the Olympics coming up. August is usually a downtime. But remember, conventions usually aren't this early. They're usually during the month of August, at least the final one is.
Right.
This is unusual to have the conventions end already. So it could be that we're dealing with a new situation. We're not exactly sure how the polls will react. But if Hillary Clinton is leading come Labor Day, I think this election, although it isn't over, she's clearly a heavy favorite.
You wrote an article, "There's time for Trump or Clinton to become more likable." How?
Well, I think what I did was I looked back at over the polls since, I believe it was 1980. And what we see is that the post-convention favorability numbers, that is, do you like this person or don't like this person, have a favorable view of them, not have a favorable view of them, what we see in the past is that the numbers that we have right now at this point in the campaign aren't set in stone. Oftentimes, what you see is that the numbers shift. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. Barack Obama's, for instance, went down a little bit after the DNC in 2012, while Mitt Romney's rose a little bit after the DNC in 2012, which was the final part of the final convention. So there's plenty of times for things to change. Advertisements will be going up in states. We'll have debates, which could shift things around a little bit. But really, if it's 30 days from now and we get to Labor Day and Hillary Clinton still has a lead in the polls and is seen as more favorable than Donald Trump is, it's going to be hard for him to come back. He's got really about 30 days in my mind to turn this campaign around. Even with the debates, even if they're watched by millions of people, they don't tend to shift things historically. Of course, Donald Trump is such a ahistoric figure, who can really say?
Even though a majority of Americans say the country is heading in the wrong direction, but Obama's approval ratings go up. How do you explain that?
Well, I think what's going on is that figure is that right track, wrong direction figure has historically, in fact, not correlated too well with approval ratings. So if you go back to 2012, for instance, that right track, wrong direction number was not too good and Barack Obama won re-election. The approval rating has historically been much more highly correlated with the election outcome. Now, it's not a guarantee that Hillary Clinton wins if Barack Obama's approval rating is, say, in the low 50s as it is right now. You know, you can go back to the 2000 election when Bill Clinton's approval ratings were in the 60s in most polls, and Al Gore, obviously, although he won the popular vote, lost the election. It was close either way. But usually speaking, if Barack Obama's approval rating is, say, 50 to 55% come Election Day, that tells a good sign for Hillary Clinton. She'll probably win, but it's not guaranteed.
Would you want Obama out in the hustings for you?
I would definitely want him. I mean, he is a very good orator. He brings forth the Democratic message in a very good way. And more than that, we spoke earlier about the Bernie Sanders supporters. Most Bernie Sanders supporters have a favorable view of Barack Obama. So if you want to bring those Bernie Sanders supporters into your camp, you want Barack Obama out on the trail selling the Hillary Clinton message.
Harry, is one of the puzzling things this year getting a read of Donald Trump? Are people saying they're against him and they might be voting for him?
Well,
there's no basis to go on.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can float any theory that you want to float about, you know, maybe there's some hidden Donald Trump vote. But I remember in 2008, for instance, there were a lot of people saying, oh, Barack Obama isn't going to do as well in the poll as he did in the polls because there are people who secretly won't say that they're not going to vote for a black guy. If we look back during the primary, Donald Trump pretty much got what he polled. There is no basis to believe that Donald Trump is going to do better on Election Day than the polls indicate. I go back, for instance, to the 1991 Louisiana gubernatorial race when David Duke was running. Now, David Duke is not Donald Trump, but I think that we can all agree that they both sort of have people who have racial prejudices are perhaps more likely to vote for them than for the other candidate. And there were a lot of people who said, oh, you know, David Duke is going to do better than the polls indicate because people are afraid that they're going to vote for him. In fact, what happened was David Duke did worse because there was higher black turnout. It wouldn't be surprising to me if there's higher black turnout this time around than some of the polls indicate because black voters might be so fearful of Donald Trump.
Will the vice presidential selections have an effect?
Usually vice presidents really don't have too much of an effect. I mean, you're voting for the presidential candidate, right? I mean, when was the last time that someone said, ooh, you know, I was really thinking of going for Barack Obama, but then Paul Ryan came in and he really changed my mind.
No, but Lyndon Johnson in 1960 elected Kennedy by bringing in Texas.
Well, Texas, that's the one place where vice presidents can make an effect, right, is in their home state. Now, if you look back to the 1960 election, there were different ways that Kennedy could have won, but I think that most people agree that Johnson certainly helped out in the state of Texas. This time around, Tim Kaine, I think, could help out in the state of Virginia. We did the math, and what we showed was that Tim Kaine makes it 0.7 percentage points more likely that Barack Obama wins the Electoral College. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but most things really don't have any impact in a presidential campaign. Tim Kaine's selection could, in fact, help Hillary Clinton win this election, although probably won't make the difference at the end of the day.
Now, Pence, at the end, was pretty unpopular in Indiana. Does that give her a good chance in Indiana?
Well, Indiana is more of a red state. Obviously, Barack Obama won it in 2008, but it was a very close matchup. If Hillary Clinton is winning in the state of Indiana, this election is long over. The real place where Mike Pence's selection may make a difference is it could help the Democratic Party in that state win that gubernatorial race, and also they're gunning for a Senate seat with Evan Bayh running again in Indiana, coming off the sidelines, and perhaps with things being a little messy in that state, the Pence selection might throw the Republican Party into a little bit of disarray, and that could help the Democrats perhaps right on the margins capture that Senate seat.
Harry, great talking with you. We'll be calling on you a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks to Harry Enten. For more of Harry's reporting, check out 538.com. Joining me now is Bob Livingston, former Republican congressman from Louisiana, founder of the Livingston Group. He endorsed Donald Trump during the primaries. He joins us from Metairie, Louisiana. We're less than 100 days away, Bob, from the election. What's your read on this campaign right now?
Well, it's a toss-up. I just noted that Trump was actually ahead in all but about 1 day in the average polls in July. So it's a new ball game. Both candidates are not the most popular that have ever been nominated by their respective parties. But when I look at the big issues, the economy, national security, immigration, and certainly the Supreme Court, I just come down very strongly on behalf of Donald Trump and very much against Hillary Clinton.
You endorsed Trump, and at the time you voted, when you voted, you didn't vote for him, and Ted Cruz and John Kasich were still in the primary. Who did you vote for in the primary?
I voted for Marco Rubio, and he dropped out about 3 days later.
Have you had any second thoughts on the endorsement? Because Trump keeps saying things every day that causes some sort of flurry. Have you hedged a little?
No, I'm not. I haven't hedged my position. I'm going to vote for him, and I'm going to vote for him enthusiastically, both for him and against his opponent. And I don't think that the third parties are worth a darn, so I'm not even considering them. But I do wish that Trump would get some of his comments under control, because I don't think that he's been terribly on steady, let's say that, steady on a lot of his comments. He gets distracted. If he would just talk about the key issues in this campaign, then, frankly, he wins hands down.
The biggest reaction lately now is about his comments about the speech made by Khazar Khan, the father of the American Muslim Army captain killed in Iraq. Trump complained he was viciously attacked by Khan. He questioned why the mother wasn't able to speak. He equated the same sacrifices he did hiring jobs to the death of a son. I don't know how hiring jobs is a sacrifice. What do you make of that whole thing?
Larry, it was an unfortunate issue to debate. There was no good side for Donald to talk about on this thing. It's a tragedy that the young man was killed in doing service for this country. He should have simply acknowledged that and moved on. The fact that he didn't means that he needs some polish as a candidate. But that doesn't mean he's wrong on the issues. He can go on and talk about the need for a strong national defense, but he doesn't need to get into all these wars and these activities. Fact is, Hillary Clinton voted for the war in Iraq where this kid was killed. He could have talked about that. He could have talked about the need to strengthen our military that's been in decline for the last several years. Even though Obama, who has not gotten us out of these wars but continues to mess up the Middle East, he should have talked about that. But getting in personal ad hominems about the family members of people who were killed in the war doesn't do anybody any good, and I hope we move on from it.
Bob Livingston's my guest. We'll have more after the break.
on in your city, in your streets. Never back down like Tyrell, and the truth is what you seek. To analyze, investigate from the bottom to the top. You speak your mind like Sean Stone, whether they like it or not. I got Tabitha, Miss Wallace, with the wisdom and the pearl. Between the outrage and the evidence, what's going on in this world? Watching the Hawks, watching the Hawks, watching the Hawks. Listen when they talk.
I'm Tom Harpin, and I'll give you what the mainstream media can't, the big picture.
There's been no charges filed against him. Should be free.
And when you question more, you find what you're looking for.
This is the legislative branch of the parliament.
We'll go deeper, investigate, and debate, all so you can get the big picture.
You're watching an RT America special report.
Man, it ain't about him. It's about you. It's about me. It's about everybody.
Basically, everything that you think you know about civil society had broken down.
There's always going to be somebody else one step ahead of the game.
We should not be in the business of normalizing violence.
We don't need people that think like this on our planet.
This is an incredibly tense situation.
Welcome back to Politicking. Bob Livingston is my guest, the former Republican congressman from Louisiana, longtime D.C. insider, founder of the Livingston Group. He has endorsed Donald Trump. Does it give you some concern, though, that Donald is kind of a lone wolf?
He is a very unusual candidate. There is no doubt about that. But it's done him well, and I think that there's so many people that are convinced that he is speaking to the average guy. He's speaking to people that haven't voted Republican in perhaps their whole lives. He's talking to the blue-collar guy who wants a job, who's distressed that all our jobs have gone overseas. He's talking to people who are concerned about the immigrants who are coming in and out of the country from abroad without any vetting, any checking. And some of them pose a real hazard to people's lives and families and so forth. He's talking about, he should be talking about stacking the Supreme Court with conservatives and not the type of people that Hillary Clinton will be setting up on the court. So there's so many issues that he can talk about. He doesn't need to get embroiled in some of these other issues.
At the time of your endorsement, Bob, you said that Donald Trump has an unusual appeal, the likes of which we haven't seen since Reagan. But Reagan was known for his optimism, and Trump seems to be known for a darker side. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Not entirely, Larry. I've heard that theme, and I think that that's basically what Hillary Clinton would like to portray, in order to shift attention away from the fact that she's untrusted by 60% of the American people. She's got one scandal after another to account for. She's got emails that transmitted national secrets to foreign powers. She's got this whole Clinton Foundation that hasn't even been touched yet, and I think that we're going to hear so much more about in the months ahead. So he needs to just shift to his opponent and not declare little mini battles with people that, frankly, shouldn't even be discussed on television.
Are your feelings as much anti-Clinton as pro-Trump?
Pretty much.
I appreciate the honesty of that. Donald Trump recently said he's starting to agree with those who are chanting, "Lock her up." Isn't that a little overboard?
No, that's over the board. Yeah, that's strong. In fact, he deliberately, when he was given that speech last week or so, tamped that down when they started chanting it in front of him. So I don't think he's adopted that. That's not the kind of thing we need. We need to talk about issues. We need to talk about her position on the Supreme Court and all the liberals that she's going to stack the court with. We need to talk about unlimited immigration. She wants to bring in 3 or 4 or 5 times as many people into this country from Syria that haven't been vetted than Obama has. There are just so many things that Hillary Clinton has proven herself wrong over the years. She's known to the American people. She's been around for 30 years. And if he'll concentrate on that, I think he can and I think he will win this election.
You are not anti-immigration, are you, Bob?
No, actually, I'm not. I've always favored legal immigration. In fact, I think, well, the whole country was founded on immigration.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Native Americans, we're all immigrants going back sooner or later. No, I'm for it. I just don't think we ought to be opening the doors and letting anybody walk in, regardless of their background and without being checked. I mean, we want good, solid people to be great Americans. And the man last week who talked about the loss of his son is a great American. God bless him. We need to have more good people who want to become Americans, but we don't need them unvetted like Obama's doing right now, and Hillary would even multiply.
In 2008, 10 years after you left Congress, you told the Times-Picayune that you don't wish the Clintons any ill will. Do you still feel that way?
I do. Actually, I like Bill Clinton, and I've only met Hillary Clinton once or twice maybe. I still like Bill Clinton. He's impossible to dislike. But, you know, he was convicted in a court of law, or at least on an ethics board, for lying under oath, and he lost his bar license. She's had one scandal after another, and I don't like their background. I don't believe that they're very trustworthy. I join with 60% of the American people in saying that she's not trustworthy enough to be president of the United States.
Are you concerned that Vladimir Putin might be in the middle of our election?
I'd be shocked. I mean, Putin is the head of Russia. He's become increasingly authoritarian, if not a dictator. And I think that their interests in Russia are not our interests. But I do think that he's probably trying to tap our email systems, as are the Chinese and are, frankly, any other adversary. And I don't think Hillary Clinton was very responsible in her handling. When she was Secretary of State and handling the nation's top secrets, she didn't seem to give a darn. And that bothers me. That makes another reason why I don't think she'd be a good president.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a plus to have Bill back in the White House, though?
Well,
that's some sort of plus.
When he had a lot to do, he got himself in a little trouble. Now he won't have anything to do except what he wants to do. I'm not so sure that that's a plus. Look, the guy's a great, gregarious guy, and I wish him well. But when you look at a picture of Bill Clinton as being the next First Lady versus the next First Lady if Donald Trump gets elected, I'll take Trump.
Okay, Donald Trump has heaped scorn on lobbyists. He said, we don't need them. You are a successful lobbyist. Do you take that personally?
I've heard the last few presidents say they're against lobbyists. I noticed Obama said he wasn't going to have anything to do with lobbyists except for the ones that he invited into the White House, and they were his lobbyists. Hillary Clinton is well known not only with lobbyists, but with the bankers in Wall Street, and yet she says she's going to reel in the lobbyists and Wall Street. I take all that with a grain of salt, and I'm not getting too worried about it. Being a lobbyist is much like being a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer too. You represent your clients, and you do the best job you can for them. If you can't do a good job for them, they're not going to hire you. And so
the good lobbyist provides information, does he not?
He provides information. He works to get a job done. Yeah. I mean, you hire a lobbyist. You hire a lawyer to go to court and get your objectives recognized. And a lobbyist, you go through the political process. If I don't know anything about the political process, I'm not going to have any clients.
One area, though, you advocate on behalf of trade deals, including NAFTA. Trump is opposed to this. Is that an area you disagree with Trump?
I am not very crazy about his trade policies, although I think you can make a case that a lot of Americans have lost their jobs in favor of businesses abroad. One of the biggest things that worries me is the inversions, the companies that flee the United States to go to other countries and to set up shop and hire people that aren't Americans. That does bother me. You know how we could stop that immediately? Lower the corporate tax rate so they don't flee and so that they have an incentive to stay right here in the country. We need a change in tax policy, and I don't think that Hillary Clinton, who is just going to be an extension of Barack Obama's tax policy, is going to be an improvement at all. I think Trump would be a tremendous improvement.
One other thing, Bob, the differences between the two conventions. The Republican convention say make America great again. The Democratic convention was staunchly America's already great. Where do you stand?
I think we need a lot of improvement. Our economy's down. We have more people unemployed, not the traditional employment factor, which is around 5%, but the people who have given up looking for work. We got to put those people back to work. We got something like 90 million people in this country that are out of work, and that's inexcusable. So America does have to get great again. We have to be smarter in our international policy. The Chinese are taking advantage of us. The Russians, even the North Koreans pose a great threat, and yet we don't hear anything from the Democrats about that. They don't seem to care about the plight of the average worker unless they can use the average worker. Go to Detroit. Right now, go to Detroit or any other inner city, major city. The Democrats have been running those cities for generations. And look where they are. The average poor black kid, minority kid, can't get a job because of Democratic policies. It's not the Republicans' fault. It's their fault. And they need to be accountable. And I'm just hoping that Donald Trump will stand up and scream about putting the poor, unemployed people in the inner city, and particularly the youngsters, to train them back to work. Get them back to work.
Bob, great talking with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Larry. It's great to be with you.
Robert Livingston, we thank him for joining us on this edition of Politicking. Remember, you can join the conversation on my Facebook page. You can check out the Politicking blog on our homepage or tweet me at King's Things. Don't forget, use the Politicking hashtag. And that's all for this edition of Politicking.